Tera is a very silly mechanic, all things considered, even if it's also probably one of the most fun. Terastalizing into certain types is much more useful at times than just being that type originally, because terastalizing into said type can both cover a certain weakness or give you offensive potential you didn't have prior. That, when combined with your current offensive potential, goes off the charts. Case in point, fire is a better type than grass, but sometimes you want to Tera your Heatran to grass in order to beat water and ground. Or Sinistra being a ghost, and ghost types are better than fighting types. But Tera fighting Tera Blast with your Sinistra to kill T-Tar is too good to pass up. Or because someone likes to comment about Incineroar, and this one is for you. Tera Ghost Incineroar in order to avoid fake out in close combat. That is a world champion difference. I won't be going into the cons too much, because the cons of a Tera type are literally you are now weak to new types, and that both goes without saying and gets really old after a while. The con has to be actually worth talking about to come up. Anywho, before we begin, Luna's World. If you like lo-fi hip-hop and want a place to relax, Luna's World is the place for you. I will leave that in the description below. But with that said, let's get started. Electric is a type I had higher up, but then I remembered there was one issue with Tera Electric that I didn't like, and it's the fact that it's too situational. Yes, having only one weakness and it being ground is nice, but Tera Electric seldom offers any real useful resistances. You just get Electric and Flying, which aren't common enough to be necessary resists in my opinion, outside of really trying to live Thunderclap. Of course, electric types and electric terrain, if able, will Tera Electric in order to get more offensive pressure, but that's really it. The main reasons that this Tera gets used is because people like Tera Electric plus Levitate in order to make their Cresselia really hard to kill, or they really don't want to get paralyzed that turn. In sillier cases, in Nat Deck's Anything Goes, people want to say that their Tera Electric Wonder Guard Air Balloon Shedinja is invincible. And then you pretty much send in anything that does Chip or Toxic, and you see it go down. If you want a Thunder Wave immunity without Tera Electric though, Tera Ground is a good alternate Tera that also makes you more resilient to Stealth Rocks, but at the cost of more weaknesses. Grass needs no introduction if you've ever looked at Heatran in the current metagame. The pros to Tera Grassing are typically that you're going to be able to take Scald and Earthquake better, which is always nice. But Tera Grass is really good as well if you're trying to absorb a Spore or Powder move, or in doubles cases, ignore Rage Powder redirection. You also can tell someone whose main method of recovery is Leech Seed that they aren't welcome here. Florges can finally use Flowerville to be immune to having its stats lowered, which I think is actually pretty comedic. If you're Rillaboom, the pros of Tera Grass is none of that, and just that you get to kill whatever's in front of you even harder. The main issue is that being hit by U-turn sucks now. Ice is a good Tera, but only if you're exactly an electric type. Thanks to Ice's lack of resists, you're never Terastalizing this to eat a hit unless you are exactly Tera Icing your Sandy Shocks into Ice in order to eat a Tera Ice Tera Blast from other Sandy Shocks, which yes, is a real thing that will happen in a real game of Pokemon. The entire reason to ever Tera Ice is solely predicated on the fact that Thundurus, Jolteon, and Regieleki want to hit ground, grass, and dragon types really, really badly. And so now they can, and they will. Landorus and Gliscor will know true fear. The dragon typing is something you Tera into for absolutely defensive purposes, unless you are literally already a dragon, in which case you're doing it so you can spam Outrage even harder. That's the literal only case I've seen someone Tera Dragon offensively. When I see Tera Dragon, it's because the Pokemon in question has a weakness to fire, water, grass, or electric, and those weaknesses need to be covered. A notable example is that Tera Dragon Dondozo exists solely for the purpose of beating grass and electric, which are its only two weaknesses. And then, there's also Order Up. which I cannot deny exists. Tera Dragon has incredible defensive merit, with its offensive merit being a little more situational if you ask me. Tera Poison is a bit of a weird one, but you are absolutely going to use this for a defensive reason. One of the ways I've used it is to Tera Poison a Pokemon solely so I can have a way to remove Glimmora spikes from the field if I just have no other options for some reason. Which should never happen, but you never know. The other reasons to Tera Poison go as follows. Being immune to toxic and poison is really, really nice. And being able to resist fairy, grass, and fighting is phenomenal. Not only is fairy the best type in the game, but sometimes you need a guaranteed way to beat Iron Valiant and Rillaboom into the ground. And being able to take their stab and then clap back is just a pretty good way to do it. Having a whole immunity to one of the most dangerous statuses feels pretty good. Another potential Tera for a poison immunity is Steel, which, like poison, is weak to ground. But Tera Steel also has the perk of resisting Dragon Stab. In exchange, more weaknesses overall. I actually don't see Tera Steel used that often, outside of dragons like Chomp and Regidrago, sometimes Roaring Moon, which is why it isn't the main type on this list, as weird as it is to say. Maybe I'm just crazy. And yeah, you better believe that I still love Tera Steel Goldango Make It Rain, boosted by Persiker Steely's Spirit. So, to be quite frank, yes, Tera Fire is both good defensively and offensively for certain mods, and that's all fine and dandy. But that's not the reason you are using Tera Fire. Stop lying to yourself. You put Tera Fire on your physically attacking Swords Dance or Dragon Dance sweeper because you lost a game on ladder by attacking Moltres on the Switch and then watching Flame Body Pock just too many times. This Tera type is good because Flame Body, Will-O-Wisp, and Machagacha are all things that you're just tired of accounting for. And Scald, while it can't burn you, sadly just kills you instead. Typically, when you use this Tera type, you're trying to end the game, because coming back in is a non-option because you've already committed to setting up. And if you do switch out and come back, you just take Stealth Rock damage. Tera fighting Tera Blast was quite literally what got Speed Boost Espathra banned, and I shouldn't have to say more. However, I probably should anyways. In my humble opinion, there are two reasons to play Tera fighting. The first reason is defensively, obviously. But mostly, if you're Ghost or Psychic, you will run Tera fighting for the sole purpose of living a Sucker Punch, Kowtow Cleave, or Knockoff. And then, what's the other reason you should run Tera fighting, you might be asking? Well, offensively, to murder Kingambit. Yes, there are plenty of other fighting weak targets, and suddenly killing Blissey is always fun. But it's mostly to live Kingambit Sucker Punch, and then to break his damn legs. So, you know how we talked about if you're doing Tera Fire, it's because you're very tired of losing to Flame Body? Well, if you're doing Tera Ghost, it's because you're a hazard setter. You set up rocks, spikes, or webs, and you forgot to bring Goldango the spin block. This is disastrous. How are you going to stop Great Tusk Rapid Spin now? Oh wait, you can just become immune to Rapid Spin. That's literally all you need it for, and it's excellent for it. The fighting immunity and only having 2 weaknesses is like a bonus. I debate that Tera Ghost would be used even if blocking the exact move Rapid Spin is all it did. Now, what are the cons, you might be asking? Why don't you ask these boys? Tera Fairy is like the default go-to Tera, I imagine. The amount of things that simply using Tera Fairy can do for you is crazy. Are you like Blissey and Garganacl, who are up against a terrifying fighting type and you really need to live the turn? Yeah, just Tera Fairy. Are you a dragon type Pokemon trying the sweep, but suddenly you feel as if the Raging Bolt is readying its Draco Meteor? Just Tera Fairy. Are you Raging Bolt? Just Tera Fairy. Are you a bulky water who needs to resist grass and electric? Tera Fairy. The simple act of choosing the correct time to Tera Fairy can quite literally be game determinative within itself. I'd say it's the easiest Tera to slap on a mon, and odds are, it'll do you just fine. That's Tera Fairy. The only reason that this type isn't number 1 is because it's perfect at pure defense. And I prefer my Teras to be able to be defensive and offensive, which leads me to this. Mono Water is the best Tera ever made of all time. No questions asked. Either that or Fairy, but I am settling on Water here. You Tera Water because you're turning a defensive Pokemon who wasn't Water basically in the Suicune. You now have 2 weaknesses, a decent handful of resists, and your wall just got wallier. I don't think more needs to be said. If you need reputable sources, please ask Garganical and Hatterene, who used Tera Water to an outstanding success. Of course, there's also a debate for Tera Water offensively, being that Walking Wake and Barraskewda are going to pretty much button mash with their weather-boosted stabs. Is your Gliscor weak to Ice and Fire? Well, I guess you know what Tera you're doing. Do you need your Floatzel Wave Crash to hit just a bit harder? Well, I got the Tera for you. I didn't know I could solve all my problems by simply being hydrated. In fact, I'm gonna go drink some water right now. Drink water. Do it. Stop watching this video. Go stay hydrated. Well, that pretty much wraps up the top 10 strongest Tera types. What'd you guys think? Do you consider Fairy or Water the strongest? Which Tera type is your favorite? I would love to know all of that down in the comment section below. With that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all very soon.